There we go. Now let's do that again. Hi, everybody. Welcome to PDF Accessibility, How to Find and How to Fix, which is led by Sean Keegan, the Director of the Office of Digital Accessibility here at Stanford. If we ask that you please keep your mics muted throughout the presentation. If you do have a question, feel free to ask it in the chat, and I will pop in and interrupt Sean, or I will answer it in the chat. I am Kevin Murphy. I also work in the Office of Digital Accessibility, so I will be able to answer some of the questions. This session will be recorded and posted to the WebCamp website after the event. So with that, take it away, Sean.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on your time zone, and a special shout out to our participant from Muncie, Indiana. If you missed earlier in the conversation, then talk to us later. In any case, welcome to the session on PDF accessibility, how to find and how to fix. I'm going to ask some questions as we go through today, so feel free to use the chat, and Kevin will help and as well as prompt me as we go through. I'm going to be talking about a couple of different tools that we have available from the Office of Digital Accessibility. And if you're not sure how to use these tools, please reach out. We're happy to provide some training and go over some of the basics. I'm going to be talking and showing and demonstrating a few of these tools today. And so that'll help maybe get you started. But once again, please feel free to reach out and ask questions. So to get started, one of the first things that I have is a question for everyone. And please use the chat. What are some accessibility barriers with PDFs? Go ahead and take a moment, use the chat, pop your thoughts in there right now.
So mobile viewing is the first one out the
all right, mobile viewing.
Door.
That's a good one.
Screen readers.
Yep.
Keyboard navigation.
Accessibility with screen readers can be a huge accessibility issue.
Editability, images, and reading and focus order.
Absolutely. Someone mentioned even when tagged things can be in the wrong order. That's actually a really good point. We'll be talking about PDF tags here in just a moment as we go through. Absolutely, but these are a number of the different accessibility barriers that we find with PDF documents. And so, some people posted these already, but we oftentimes deal with content related issues, such as there's no actual text in the PDF. What we're dealing with in those cases is basically a scanned image. It's a picture of text. And that's a real problem for assistive technologies that really need to be able to parse that text. Now, then you have things such as a lack of headings. These are problems that we also find on web pages too, but missing headings makes it more difficult for someone to navigate through a PDF document if they're using perhaps a screen reader. Similarly, you have missing image descriptions. If you've got images in PDFs, which we oftentimes put, if there's no text equivalent, if there's no text description of that image, it makes it very difficult for someone who's once again using a screen reader or some other assistive technology to be able to read and communicate that the purpose or the intent of that image. One of the big problems we find, and this is actually broader, a lot of people say, oh, this is a problem for someone who's blind or visually impaired, but this can actually have a real big impact for individuals with various learning disabilities, in that there's no logical reading order that's been specified in the document. And this oftentimes happens when someone's using a text-to-speech application, basically reading the PDF back, rather than reading perhaps down column 1 and then moving appropriately over to column 2 to continue the passage. It jumps around, and it may read straight across both columns. It may read the first paragraph in column 1 and then jump to the last paragraph in column 2. And so a lack of a logical reading order becomes really troublesome when using different types of not only assistive technologies, but different technologies in general to have that document read back to you. And then one that I think is not only an accessibility, but a usability issue is how many times are we dealing with interactive forms in a PDF document and it's just simply missing instructions, right? There may be a line, there may be a form field that you're supposed to do something with. And then you're like, is it my first name? Is it my full name? Is it my married name? You know, what am I supposed to be doing here? And so not only is it a problem from just a general usability perspective, but it has absolutely an issue for people with disabilities trying to navigate this document and complete it. So a few just accessibility barriers with PDFs. Now, let's talk about a PDF tag first and foremost, because this is something that we're going to be referring to throughout the document. We're going to be talking about the importance and the value and the necessity of PDF tag. I have a screenshot here of basically a document in Adobe Acrobat Pro. And on the left side of the interface is what's called the tags panel. And the tags panel, basically they look like little icons in a tree-like structure that demonstrates this hierarchy of information. And as you navigate kind of down this tree, it identifies various tag elements, almost analogous in some respects to like HTML structure or the document object model. And that would probably be a good example. This is, you know, kind of like the DOM of a PDF for accessibility purposes. And so this tag structure helps control not only the document data in terms of headings, properties for image descriptions, but it also controls that logical reading order, as well as interactive form objects and interactive elements such as links. And so here on the left, we can see there's an H1 where it says maintaining accessibility to information technology, and those are kind of in little boxes. Then there's a P level, just basically a paragraph saying a guide for California community colleges, and some date and some information. And so this tree-like structure represents the PDF tags. And if a PDF document does not have these tags, then it is going to be very difficult for any types of assistive technologies to navigate and interact with it. So how do we create these PDF tags? Well, and how do we generate accessible PDF versions? Let me talk a little bit about the authoring process. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just really, really briefly, there's so many different ways of creating a PDF that the problem becomes, how do you create these documents in a way that they are accessible? And I have up here called the easy path. Starting from left to right, we start with a Microsoft Word document. You can apply accessible authoring techniques such as using headings, providing descriptive hyperlinks, providing image descriptions, properly structuring your tables, things like that. So you can do accessible authoring techniques. And in the Microsoft world, you use this save as PDF, or you use the Adobe PDF plugin. And that takes that document, recognizes the heading structure, the text descriptions for images, and so on, and will deliver you a tagged PDF that works pretty well. That's one easy path. Not everybody uses Microsoft Word, though. So for those that are using InDesign, once again, you can start with an InDesign file, apply those same accessible authoring techniques, and then as you go through and get ready to export it, there's something that you have to do a little bit differently. But as you get ready to publish it, you have to choose the Adobe PDF interactive format and check Create Tagged PDF. And that, once again, will help take all of that basically document data and deliver it in that tag structure that we saw on the previous slide. That's a little more complex path. I'm not going to go into all the details. We could spend easily 2 or 3 hours on InDesign accessibility. So we have an easy path, little more complex path. Now, what happens if you're dealing with a PDF document that someone has given you and they say, okay, I need you to fix it? Well, there's a couple different things you can do. If you suspect that the document started as a Microsoft Word document, the easiest thing to do is take that PDF, convert it back to Word, and we'll be talking about a tool here in a moment that you can do that with. Apply those same accessible authoring techniques. Use the Save As PDF for the Adobe PDF plugin and generate your more accessible PDF version. That's the kind of sort of easy path, because it doesn't always cleanly go from PDF back to Microsoft Word. A tool we have here at Stanford is called Scribe, scribe.stanford.edu, and you can upload a PDF document and choose document conversion, and then it'll take it from that PDF version back to a Word, and then you can apply those techniques. There's the, what I call, shake your fist in anger path of fixing a PDF, which is take Adobe Acrobat, PDF file, use Acrobat Pro to try and manually create the PDF tags or change the PDF tags, and then you have to kind of continue fixing things that was working, but then wasn't working, but then somehow may start working. And there's a real lovely little hiccup in Acrobat Pro, whereas you try to tag things and suddenly it disappears visually from your document due to kind of the Z index problem that comes up every once in a while. So it's still there, but suddenly it just got pushed all the way to the background. It's no longer visible. And then you have to spend an untold amount of time trying to find it and bring it back up. So this is kind of what I call the shake fist in anger path of taking a PDF, trying to use Acrobat, trying to fix everything, and delivering a tagged PDF again. We've got some better ways. We'll talk about that. So some numbers for everyone. Stanford's public-facing website. So we have, and this actually is probably already a little old. These numbers are changing regularly. I'll say this: we have over 600 public-facing websites that we know is a mere speck in the landscape of public-facing websites at Stanford. Things with a stanford.edu in the stanford.edu domain. So over 600 websites. Over 1 million pages that are being scanned right now with our scanning and monitoring tool. And as we can tell right now, over 23,000 PDF documents. There's a lot of PDF documents that we have on that we're scanning and checking right now. And we know there's more out there. This is just what we do know of. And this does not include PDF documents that may be squirreled away in Google Drive or other platforms that we should no longer be using. So we do have a lot of PDFs on our websites. And one of the challenges with dealing with PDF accessibility is, where are they? You got to try to find them first and foremost, and then you can start doing something about them. Okay. And so that's where we have this tool called Siteimprove at Stanford. This is available at no cost to the Stanford community. This is where we can help find those PDF files. Okay. A lot of times people will say, I don't even know where to begin. And the answer to that question is, well, let's start at the beginning. Let's find out what we know. Let's find out what we don't know. And really, let's take a look at what's our public-facing content look like. Let's start someplace. And particularly when we look at this from kind of a risk perspective, it's like public-facing content is certainly an area of significant risk for accessibility. So we can use Siteimprove to find our files. And I'm going to go through what that looks like in Siteimprove here in a minute. And then once we find them, okay, it'll help tell us, like, hey, you've got these PDF files, and it does kind of a good, bad, or ugly type of check. It'll say, look, it's only got a few issues, it's got a lot of issues, or it has no issues at all. For files that we find, what you can then also do is use a tool called Equidox. This is another tool that's available at no cost to the Stanford community, where we can go ahead and fix the PDFs and then republish them back to our website. Okay. So I'm going to stop the share here momentarily and then reshare my other screen. And Kevin, if there's any questions right now, now would be a good time.
Well, there's a question about LibreOffice and how its tools are in comparison to things like Word. And I haven't used it in a while. It didn't used to have a very robust support for accessibility, but the link that was shared in the chat shows that it looks a lot better than it used to be. So that's good. I couldn't say for sure one way or the other though.
LibreOffice actually has come a long way, and what I find is that a lot of these applications kind of leapfrog over each other a little bit. Microsoft Word will release some improvements in terms, and this works for PowerPoint files too, in terms of producing more accessible PDF versions. And then LibreOffice or OpenOffice will then come out with another version that does it a little better, and then Word comes out, does a little better. Are any of them perfect? No, they're not. But I would say they are pretty comparable right now in terms of the feature set. I do think the Microsoft Office suite has a bit of the edge in this latest round.
Okay, so a few other questions. Carol, is there a way of using Siteimprove to find documents that are housed on Google Drive? Sort of. I will talk to you about that later, Carol. Jess asks, what about PDFs generated from web apps? I have yet to find a web app that creates an accessible PDF at all. I mean, it is completely and utterly inaccessible from everyone I've seen so far. Maybe there's one out there that does it well, but I haven't seen it.
Well, on that just really quickly on that, from web apps, are there, because a lot of them are based around, there's automated routines and scripts that allow you to produce that PDF. I believe there are some that are starting to come out now that will produce a tagged PDF version that will represent some of the structure of a document. But are they the free open source ones that we all want to know and love? No. And so the only ones that I've seen tend to be systems where it's highly configured and customizable, and you're working with a vendor to make that so, such as, I'll give you an example from within the higher education space. If you wanted to print off, let's say, a PDF version of our salary information, when you log into Access and you want to look up, like, hey, I want to get my pay stub information, that comes out as a PDF. Are there companies that can make that PDF and deliver it as an accessible version? Yes. It kind of has to run that data then through a third-party company where they've set up a highly configured system to then produce back out that structure. Same thing with like a transcript. If a student wanted to get a PDF of a transcript, once again, it can happen, but there are no libraries that I'm aware of right now that just you can then, that are free and open source that you can simply apply it, and it does a high quality job. Any others?
There's a question about using Scribe and Scribe doing things incorrectly. I don't know enough about Scribe.
I'll touch on that one in a few minutes.
Okay.
Perfect. So here I am in Siteimprove right now, and I'm basically kind of under the accessibility region. So when you log into Siteimprove, and if you're not familiar with Siteimprove, then our very own Kevin Murphy here, I'll be happy to take you through a tour of Siteimprove. He normally has office hours on Thursdays from 11 to 12, but instead he's here talking to us. So, but what Siteimprove will do is identify the PDF documents you have on your website. You have to scroll down to the PDFs section here on the left, and then it basically shows you, here's all the PDFs that we found on your site, and basically identifies when it was last modified, what are the issues, and you can sort this information. Now, you'll see a couple of green check marks. Machine readable means that it's text-based. It's not just an image of text, but it's text-based. That's a great start. You'll also have a little check mark say, yes, it has PDF tags. So yes, that's another excellent way to start. And then it may show that there's some other issues. And for instance, this one's saying that, there's no bookmarks, it's missing a language definition, there's no title. Some of these are technical issues that don't completely impact accessibility, but they're important to address. Now, things that can is the document contains no headings. There are 9 instances where there's images with no alternate text. And it's 3 instances where there's a table that's been detected and there's no table headings. And so this is a really nice way of being able to go through and be like, okay, where do we start first? Okay. And I would even suggest, if you're using Google Analytics or some other type of website monitoring, using Siteimprove's information along with where you're seeing the most amount of traffic on your website with PDF documents, that can help you refine where to begin this effort, okay? So Siteimprove will pull back this information on PDFs, and then you can actually go and look at the PDF. I'm not gonna bring it up right now, and kind of dive into where some of the issues are. Great, so we know we have a PDF, then what? Well, the then what is we take that document over to what's called Equidox, which is a PDF remediation tool that we have available here at Stanford. And this is set up so you can do single sign-on and access Equidox. And here's what it looks like, basically. Actually, when you log in, actually get this interface. But what you want to be able to do is upload a document into Equidox. And it's pretty much just a matter of dragging your PDF file into this upload file folder area, and it will simply upload your file into the Equidox application. From here, because we're doing this the cooking show method, from here, you get a list of all your PDF files that you can then work on or that you've uploaded. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up one of them right now. Once I've uploaded this file, it'll show me the pages that are included in the file, along with some information such as the document property, title property, any metadata associated with it, images, some history, permissions, and the output. Talk about output in a moment. The properties, the title, this is one of those elements, the aspects, this is analogous to the title element on HTML web page, and you want it to have it be somewhat descriptive. And so this is not super descriptive. I could probably shorten this up and getting rid of the .docs part of it and save this. And that would address one of those issues that was called out in Siteimprove, that the file doesn't have a title. Now, when I get ready to actually edit the file, I click on the page I want to start with, and I'm in Equidox. And it throws up all these boxes on the page. Okay. Now, what Equidox is trying to do is identify what's text content, what's image content, what might be the structure and reading order of the page. I'm going to actually make it a little bit easier to see. There we go. And it tries to get a sense of, it tries to guess for you, like, hey, we think this is what the document's going to look like and how it should be structured and what the reading order may be. And one of the first things I see people trying to do is immediately start trying to play with, like, I'm going to do this, I need to fix this, I need to fix this. There's something called the sensitivity slider. It's also a zone detector. It's over in this page column. This is actually one of the first places to start, because a lot of the work that people try to fix can actually be handled with the sensitivity slider. And by sliding it, you'll notice how it changes what it sees as text on the page. And so I could try to make it really big. It's like, this is all just considered one paragraph, which is probably not effective. Or I can kind of shrink things down a little bit. Maybe we'll go like that to start with. Okay, so we're back to sensitivity 5. So I can come back to this, and this helps kind of organize the content on the page. Now, even though things are maybe not perfectly lined up, I'll show you a couple of tricks as we go through. Now, in this file, I like to start with my headings. Right now, celebrating Halloween. This looks like a heading to me. And now remember, we're fixing this PDF, so we don't always know what the intended structure should have been, or maybe it was laid out a little bit incorrectly. Sometimes we just have to make our best guess. So I'm going to make this a heading. So I come over here to the left. I say this is a heading. It changes this to a heading, and I'm going to say it's a heading level 1. Okay, and you can see that in the upper left corner here, this is now an H1. I'm going to come back to the image here in a minute. This history, this text history, this is looking like a heading 2. So I'm going to say this is a heading, and under level, I'm going to now mark it as a heading 2. This heading looks like a heading 3 to me because it's kind of a subheading of the 2. So I'm going to now make this a heading level 3. And you can go through the document by quickly marking up your headings. And there's also hotkey commands. This symbolism looks a lot like the history heading. So I'm going to make that a heading 2. And I can do that by hitting the H key. If my keyboard's, there it goes, H key. Now it says H1. And then I just make the heading a 3. And I can go through and continue doing this. This is maybe another heading. We'll make it a 2, even though it's a little bit different. And that's sometimes one of the things you're like, it kind of looks like the other headings, but it looks a little, sometimes you have to just make your best guess and try to be consistent. Okay. So those are my headings. Next, and I kind of follow this, unless I go headings and then I go images. Oftentimes you find images set up in such a way that you kind of almost have 2 images. You might notice that there's kind of like 2 lines that are surrounding it. And that's oftentimes what happens when you have a drop shadow. So in that case, what I do is I select one, see how it looks like much bigger, and I hit the delete key. And now I'm just focusing on this single image. And if I have a description I can provide, I can say this is, a black crow on a branch under orange moon. And I can't spell orange. Okay. This is adding that text description. It can be short, it can be sweet. Think of something like no more than a tweet, if you will. That's kind of a real quick way. How you might be trying to communicate what this is over a telephone to someone. Okay. What's that intent? What's the purpose? This is just a black crow on a branch under an orange moon. And it could be a spooky moon if you wanted to. I'm going to come down here. I see another image. Once again, this has kind of it's a double image. You can kind of see a double image. So I'm going to click on the outside, hit the delete key, get rid of that drop shadow. And now I can go ahead and provide a description of a bunch of pumpkins. Now, there are situations where the image may be purely decorative, in which case there's no text description that's necessary. And in that case, you can go ahead and just uncheck the visible box. And when you do that, it now makes it invisible. Okay. And it basically is like setting the null value. It's like there's no description needed. This image will be hidden from assistive technologies. It's simply decorative. It has no intent or meaningful purpose on the page. All right. So I'm just going to do that as an example. What I want to come back to now is deal with reading order. Now, I could go through and I'll turn on the reading order buttons here, where I can see in the upper right corner, I can see there's a reading order where it starts as 1, then 3, then 4, then 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9. Everything's looking pretty good right now. And then all of a sudden I get down to here, I see 10, 11. Now the expectation would be 12 should be this next paragraph of text. But this is one of the things with reading order, we now have a situation where instead of reading from down the first column and then to the right column, it's reading from column 1 straight over to column 2. Okay, and I'll show you what that can look like. I'm going to save this page really quick, kind of save the work that I've done so far.
Sean, quick question.
Sure.
The question was asked, do any of these changes that you're doing here change how the PDF looks, or is it just behind the scenes?
Great question. This is behind the scenes, and a wonderful segue. Thank you for whoever asked that question. So I did a save the layout. Let me show you a preview of what this is going to look like from a kind of an assistive technology or text-based perspective. Kind of what's that logical reading order look like? And it gives it as kind of this HTML-esque kind of view where we start off with celebrating Halloween. That looks like as a heading 1. We have heading 2, and we can see this Halloween information. And then all of a sudden it kind of ends, right? And then it picks up again with celebration. And so, the reason of this is because we have kind of 2 paragraph tags. Okay, go back to the document really quick. We see we have 2 separate boxes, right? Now we could join these 2 boxes. We could actually delete one of them and then expand it to cover the other one. We can also do what's called a merge, and I'll show you that right now. I choose the second box, I click merge, and it merges it with the previous text zone. I hit save, and I preview the page again. And suddenly, what was once 2 paragraphs is now 1 single paragraph. And this is not changing, as I go back, it's not changing the visible PDF, it's changing the underlying structure in the and ultimately the tag structure of the PDF to make it more accessible. If you want to change the visible structure, well, then you're dealing with some of the other more powerful tools that are available, or even with Acrobat. But in terms of easily manipulating and moving around the reading order and the tag structure, Equidox allows you to do that. Now, as I said before, we have this situation where we have kind of this, it reads across, okay? And there's a couple different ways we could kind of fix this. Part of this is we need to restructure the reading order. So we want to merge 13 with 11. Okay, we can merge it with the previous zone. I hit save and preview the page. And oops, I forgot one here. Oh yeah, trying to read that one. And I want to merge 17 with the previous text zone. And what I'm going to do here as an example, I'm just going to delete 18 and make 17 bigger. There we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to come back to my page tab, and I can do a reorder on this page. And I'm going to say I want this to do as a 2-column and do a reorder. And what that does is it does start at the top, and whereas it sees everything as 1 column, it parses everything as 1 column, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then when it sees there's 2 columns, it immediately says, I now notice there's 2 columns here. And I went 10, 11, 12, 13. And here's where it kept going. I didn't want that, but that's okay. I'll show you the trick here. And I can see this as well if I go over to my preview window. Right? Things started going really well, and then right here, it then jumped to best Halloween movies, and then there's this text down here. But that's okay. Because now I can come back here and say, well, this should really be 14, but this is 14, and I don't want to renumber everything. So here's the trick that you can do. I'm going to change this reading order here to, oops, not 13.2. And I'm going to turn this 19 into 13.3. And when I save this file now and preview the page, it's moved this text up. Is it exactly the way I want it? No. So I'm going to go back and I can fix it again and say, you know what? I'm just going to get rid of that. I'm going to make this one bigger. Come on. And I want to merge this with the previous text zone. And now what we have is we've been able to clean up that 2-column layout that had an improper reading order and move it into a way that will now read and be more logically structured. Okay. I can come back down here too and do something, for instance, these might be a couple of lists. I can move this around. Oops. All right, it's a little. I can say this is now a list of items, and it's a list of 2 items. And when I save this and look at it in the preview, I now have these 2 items here. Oops, except I got this a little out of order. I'll have to fix that. Any case, I can make this I can just create a much larger number and it automatically adjusts it. The numbers don't have to be strictly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can have decimals in there if you want to. You can have it just needs to be something that is in order on the number line as a whole. Okay. So this is how you can quickly go through and fix a document. Once again, you saw how things moved around a little bit there. I'm going to save it and close out. I'm not going to go into, there's a lot more advanced features. There's a whole table editing tool that you can use with Equidox, which is a really, really handy feature. I'm not going to go into that right now. That's a whole nother topic. I want to talk about the output. And so I've been doing all this work. I've been making all these changes. I've been adding structure to the document with the headings. I've added image descriptions. If there's links in there that I wanted to call out, I could have identified those links. And I've done the preview. Maybe I had to make fixes on tables. That's fine too. When we're finished and we're ready to generate the PDF, we come into the output tab and we can basically give it a file name if we wanted to, or just say generate PDF and it will create a file name for us. I say generate PDF. And it goes ahead and produces the PDF. And if I'll download this really quickly. And I'll show you what this looks like with the tag structure in Acrobat. Now, as you can see, it doesn't visibly change the PDF look. It still looks like the same PDF. And yes, this is simple, but we've done this with far more complex documents. That's why I mentioned the sensitivity slider. That's actually your first thing you want to go to. And sorry, I forgot where my sharing was. I'm going to switch over to the other document here.
Sean, just FYI, you have about 5 minutes left.
Thank you. And so here I am now in Adobe Acrobat. I'm going to open up the tags panel. And here is the structure. On the left-hand side, we have these accessibility tags that controls the reading order. You can see I have headings identified. The symbolism, heading 3. There's a heading 2. There's all the information in the middle here that's organized and structured appropriately. Okay. So this is a way that you can use Equidox to create PDF files and remediate these PDF files so that they're more accessible to assistive technologies and they're far more usable, particularly if someone wants to use mobile or wants to use the feature in Adobe Acrobat to do the reading mode or the reflow mode. Sorry, trying to move some windows out of the way. All right, stop the share there. And come back to okay. So very quickly, that's how we can use Siteimprove to identify our PDF files that are public facing. We can then take those files, look at them, bring them into Equidox, make some corrections, and then reproduce a PDF file that is far more accessible. Yes, there's a bit of a learning curve. It's actually fairly minimal, but there is a bit of a learning curve. Now, for situations in which you decide, you know what, I am not fixing these things. Somebody else is going to fix these things. There's a tool that, or I'm sorry, there's a services that are available through third-party vendors. One is called AbleDocs. The other vendor is called Equidox. They do actual vendor services where you can basically, for a fee, outsource it to somebody else to fix it for you. So there's a couple different pathways here. You can do it yourself. It's going to cost you some time, or you can make it somebody else's work to do, and it will cost you some money. And those links are on our website. All right.
Just a couple of follow-up questions here. Janice
Perfect.
asks, there's a lot of HTML paragraph and LI. I have a lot of bullet points in my documents in tags. Can I delete those without it messing up the format? Not entirely sure without seeing the document, but everything that's in there in your content needs to have some type of tag around it.
Correct.
A short answer on that. So as long as the correct tag is around everything, then there's good. Shirley asked if, does it matter that the tags in Acrobat are fragments of the paragraphs?
Ideally, in kind of the perfect situation, you'd want them to be that full content. What I've found, though, from actual testing with assistive technology tools, no.
And then Shirley also asks,
fragments.
How important is it for a PDF to be accessible if it's intended to be the printer-friendly version of content that is on the website in HTML?
Yes, I absolutely understand this one. So the challenge we run into is we don't always know how people are going to be using these files. And I've seen this oftentimes when people say, this is just intended for print purposes. However, there are individuals with various types of visual disabilities and low vision where they prefer that document because they can really blow up a PDF into a higher resolution, into a much larger scale, and still use their assistive technologies to navigate it. And so I do believe that if we're producing materials publicly, we should be addressing accessibility as broadly and as specifically as we can. So I would say it may be intended for print only. That may be your intent. That's not always how people consume it. And so to the extent possible, because there are trade-offs sometimes, I'm thinking like, music, it's a little hard to make, musical scores in a PDF fully accessible. Totally get that. Same thing with math. But to the extent possible that you can address PDF in that document, then we should be doing that.
Brian Smith asks if we tell people to avoid PDFs when possible, and I would say that I would like to eliminate PDFs from the face of the earth for this very reason.
Yeah, if you haven't met Kevin yet, he has a strong opinion about things.
Yes, many things.
I would say, to answer that question, I agree. If to the extent we can make it an HTML file, that's fantastic. But once again, there are going to be situations where we do need to use the PDF. I think music was an example. Math is another example. There may be forms that are required that we have to use a certain structure and certain type of document. IRS tax forms. So there may be situations where PDF is the format we have to use, and in that case, we should be addressing accessibility as much as we can. But yes, if we can move over to HTML, that tends to be much easier to fix and address from an accessibility perspective.
Janice asked a question about tables and about the reading order. Just FYI, I'm doing a whole session on
Yes.
tables tomorrow. Just FYI, it's not going to be about a PDF tables. It's more a web tables, but we are going to talk about a lot about tables.
And they're the same. The principles are absolutely the same in terms of reading a PDF table versus the HTML table. As long as you address the accessibility in the PDF version, the reading experience is going to be almost identical.
Another question came up about what about the rules about linking to external PDFs? What's our obligation?
That is a wonderful, that sounds almost like, legal risk question. And so I am going to defer that. I'll answer the question this way. If we're linking to documents that are important or critical for someone to use and utilize in order to do services here at Stanford, then yes, we should be taking steps to ensure that there's an accessible copy of that. And I'll leave it there because that can go down a whole nother dark rabbit hole. I know we're just about 2 minutes over right now, but I'll leave you with this. And the question, these are just questions. You don't have to have an answer by today or tomorrow. We're not checking on you on this next week, maybe next month, but some questions to start thinking about. What's your internal strategy for fixing your existing PDF documents? And how will you prioritize which PDFs to fix first? Now, I mentioned at the very start, you can use scanning tools like Siteimprove to identify what's the scope and scale of your PDF files. You can use Google Analytics to see how many are being accessed. I mean, maybe you've got a PDF file up there that only one person's accessed in 10 years. And I would say, per the third question, maybe get rid of it. If no one's touched it in 10 years and it's not really doing anything, why is it still out there? And sometimes we find these are just old announcements that exist for an event that is 10 years old. Nobody's going to it anymore. And so that's kind of how you can start to prioritize. What are the, if you've got PDF files out there that people, you're getting 1,000 hits a month on, yeah, that needs to go to the top of the list. If you've got files that no one's touching, not a priority. So I would encourage people to start thinking, what's your internal strategy for fixing these existing documents? And if you have questions, please reach out to our office. We are more than happy to help you navigate Siteimprove, Equidox, as well as answer some of these questions. Anything else, Kevin? To answer question, I know Shirley had asked this way back about Scribe. Yes, when you're some of the tag structure, when you go from like a Word document to a tagged PDF, it's using one of those older library conversion tools. It does a good job, but not a perfect job. And then this is also where I try to say, when you're, to the extent possible, it's better to go back to the kind of the original document source, like the content authoring, like Word or something, make the accessibility corrections there, and then try to republish it as in a more accessible PDF. Trying to do this in Acrobat is going to be challenging.
A question was asked about PDF.js to embed the PDF into a web page, and I haven't used that tool, but I have used other tools like Issuu, ISSUU, which basically renders the PDF completely inaccessible, even if it's an accessible PDF. So your mileage will vary very much on that. A downloadable PDF is probably better than a one that's embedded into a page or using some kind of framework to display it as in the web browser.
Yeah.
And I think that's all the questions. Is there any questions that I missed answering?
Nope, I think we got them all. We will post a link to the presentation on the webcam slide shortly. So thank you all very much for participating, and please feel free to reach out. I know that was a ton of information in a short amount of time, so thank you for your patience. And once again, I look forward to speaking with you in the future. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Kevin.